It looks like we're heading for a nail-biter in the presidential race. The latest polls from the New York Times and Siena College show that Vice President Kamala Harris is gaining ground in North Carolina and Georgia, while former President Donald J. Trump takes back Pennsylvania and keeps his lead in Arizona. Never before in American history have so many states in the Sun Belt and the Rust Belt shown such a tight presidential contest in the polls. As the campaign reaches its last hours, the race is still very unpredictable due to the fiercely contested landscape. Based on the latest surveys, Ms. Harris now has a slim lead in Nevada, North Carolina, and Wisconsin, while Mr. Trump maintains his lead in Arizona. According to the polls, their races in Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan are all very close. Neither candidate has a clear lead in any of the 7 states because the findings are all within the margin of sampling error. If the polls aren't drastically underestimating the support for one candidate, there are several ways for both of them to get the 270 Electoral College votes needed to win. Because of how close the race is, even a little mistake in the polling system could swing the election. Ms. Harris leads the group of 8% of voters who have only just decided on their vote by 55% to 44%, suggesting that late deciders are starting to break for her. Representing a decrease from 16% approximately 1 month ago, 11% of voters were still uncertain or open to being convinced as election day drew near. Polls are being conducted at a time when over 70 million Americans had cast their ballots, as reported by the University of Florida Election Lab. In all 7 states, almost 40% of people polled by the Times/Siena poll reported casting a ballot. According to the polls, Ms. Harris has an 8-point lead among those voters. In the race for president, Mr. Trump is leading among those who have expressed a strong intention to vote but have not done so yet. North Carolina has one of the highest rates of early voting, with over half of the voters reporting that they had already cast their ballot. Mr. Trump has been making gains in Pennsylvania, where Ms. perhaps adding to her 3-point lead in the state survey, Ms. Harris wins early voters in the state by 8 percentage points. North Carolina has recently been hit hard by Hurricane Helene, but over 90% of voters there say the storm and its aftermath have not affected their voting rights in any way. Every poll conducted in the state by the New York Times/Siena College since Harris's entry into the campaign had shown her with a 4-point lead. Both campaign strategists see the current deadlock as a sign of a fiercely contested race in the state. Trump was found to be ahead among respondents who indicated they had previously cast their ballot in only one state, Arizona. There were 46% of voters who had already cast their ballots, and Mr. Trump has a 50% to 46% lead in that demographic. Voters' priorities are changing as the race nears its finish, according to the polls. Their number one priority is the economy, but in places like Wisconsin, where Harris has maintained a steady lead, abortion is now almost as important to voters as the economy. Also, immigration is becoming an increasingly important factor for voters in Arizona, the state where Mr. Trump is leading.